Where you find that they look like the same.
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
All right, thank you for staying with us. You're watching Daybreak on Trust TV. Time to get perspectives on some of the stories we reeled out earlier on the front pages of our newspapers. We have in the studio Dr. Theophilus Abba. He is the director, Daily Trust Foundation. He joins us for more perspectives. Thank you so much for joining us, Doctor.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Stella.
Yes,
and Ayuba.
Well,
thank you very much.
Yes, the countdown has since begun, and we are counting barely 4 days to the general elections. We are seeing politicians in last-minute push, across the country, visiting places. However, one issue that has remained a debate is the issue of the cash crunch till now. We've seen that the APC governors are meeting, and calls to the Attorney General Malami and the President to obey the court order and the rest. Yes, we are still waiting for the hearing of the suit itself on the 22nd of February. But then this is just 4 days to the election. So how is all of that going to play out from what you're saying?
Okay, I think the APC as a political party is worried because when you talk about the cash crunch, it is occurring in a system that is run by the APC. Now, many Nigerians will say, well, this APC government has brought so much hardship, so why should we vote in APC? Now, I think that is one of the reasons why APC will want, these funds that the Supreme Court has ordered to be released to the system. Because the kind of suffering that, Nigerians are passing through, the kind of confiscation of the money, that Nigerians owe, they worked for and earned, is unprecedented. I don't know if that has happened in any country before. I've read about countries where maybe they face a debt crisis, and they now say, okay, every savings the account of citizen, a certain percentage is picked in order to solve, to pay for some of those debts, something like that. But not this concept of confiscating people's money and allowing them access to their money. I've never heard that happen. And
last week, the president said that the old 200 naira notes should be brought back and that it should coexist with the new 1,000 yes. and the rest. Do you think it has helped in any way?
It wouldn't help because if you there is this pie chart about the money circulation that as at December 2022. Now it says that the 1,000 notes was about 45% in circulation. 500 naira note was about 30-something% in circulation. 200 naira note was about only 15% in circulation. That means that if the money circulation as at December was about 1.something trillion, which Emefiele kept talking about, it means that only about maybe 100 billion is, the 200 naira note not more than 100 billion. Now, what we are facing today is that if you put 100 billion into circulation, it won't go far. It will not ameliorate the current hardship. 100 billion will not do so. So I'm thinking that even the 200 naira, if you upload them on the ATM machines, it wouldn't really go far. Go to Lagos. I see, and now you know what is happening. People are apprehensive, so they are trying to see if they can even get cash, to keep in case of emergency.
Don't you foresee a situation where releasing more money by the Central Bank of Nigeria, either in new cash or old cash, will eventually result in having more cash in circulation after the election, considering those who have argued that there will be more cash, after the election?
Now, you see, the issue, I don't know why having more cash in circulation is a sin. You see, the fact is that the economy cannot perform when businesses don't go on. Let me tell you, the first quarter of 2023 is likely to go to witness a recession. Because if Nigerians don't spend, the tax agencies don't make money. VAT, will not be collected. a lot of businesses have come to a standstill. So even what FIRS or whatever is the local state inland revenue will collect as revenue for in the month of January, maybe February and March, may be very little, and that will even affect the economy.
All right.
So I'm saying that you see, the systems have to work. People must be able to use their money to generate money, but now it is not possible.
All right, we heard INEC saying that they expect to get their money today.
Yes.
I mean, what happens if they don't get that money today? The election is 4 days away.
Well, I just hope that they get their money, because INEC cannot operate without money. You know, even the cashless thing we're talking about is okay. Cashless is okay, but what about the society? Now, if INEC is going to a remote area, or asking people to perform some functions for them in remote areas where banks are not existing, or even if there are banks, of course, I keep talking about the failure of the policy of inclusivity, financial inclusion, which which CBN started. You see, most of the microfinance banks, which are supposed to operate in rural areas, where you can say, okay, you are going to start so village, okay, we'll dump this money, they can transfer the money from that. Most of the microfinance banks are not functioning. Most of them, people who have had experience with them will tell you bitter stories. And so, INEC will need this cash. If INEC does not get the money to do what it ought to do practically, it can inhibit.
But we heard from the chairman who said that, well, the actual cash that INEC needs is probably maybe less than 30% of the total sum of money that they need. Most of the payments that they make is
online,
via transactions and via e-transactions and the rest of them.
But 30% is a lot of money. If you are talking about, if that 30% is not available, it can inhibit elections.
And in fact, he added that even to transport the materials, that the transporters have to be paid in cash.
They have to be paid.
So if the materials are not transported,
yeah. So, but to say that,
elections.
Just to point to the fact that it's not as though the entire money that
must be in cash. I understand, but you see, what that tells you is that CBN has not done its homework. Because when you talk about the e-transactions, when you talk about the cashless system, it's not something that you do overnight. There has to be a way of cultivating the people, a way of persuading, teaching the people. People have to learn. Like I was talking about USSD code. Now, how many people know how to use the USSD code in rural areas to do transactions? I spoke to some persons in my village. They say, no, we are operating without money here now, because we don't have access to cash. Then the old currency that we have, they say it's already invalid. We don't even know what to do about it.
All right.
So these people don't know how to use SSD code. Even the transporters, they need cash. Even when you go to a petrol station to buy fuel, you want to transfer money from your own ATM, to they will tell you that it doesn't work. Okay. So all these things are problems that CBN should have taken care of.
Here is what one of the presidential candidates has to say. The PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar says that APC governors are provoking anarchy. He says that they are inciting comments, emboldening people to attack banks. What do you say to that?
Well, that's the political statement. And I think the impression is that APC governors have, they have a lot of cash, which are becoming which is being rendered invalid. So, but you see, the kind of pain that people are passing through a lot of pain.
So, but these attacks, are they just?
The attacks should be discouraged, and security agencies should ensure that anybody who breaches peace should be arrested. But if you now say APC governors are the ones instigating them to do it, you need a lot of evidence, to prove that it's APC governors. And some of the statements that have been made by APC governors, like I said earlier, they want to protect, their, I don't know whether the right word is integrity, but they are saying that, look, as long as this crisis continues, as long as people continue to suffer, they see it as APC inflicting pains on the people. Right. And it can affect their electoral chances.
Right,
so whatever they are doing now is to ensure that, look, at least their electoral chances are not, affected by the policy that CBN or the president has put in place.
Doctor, in the past, in the run-up to the election, the security agencies would do everything within their power to maintain the peace. Now we have 4 days to the election. We're still having pockets of protests across the country. What does that say for, how can this, or how do you think this could impact the elections?
Well, the protests, over the scarcity of cash, is that no? Now, what one would think is that I think between now and the election, politicians will now know how to assuage the situation. From some of the information we have gathered, politicians have started moving money, not cash now, transferring money to people using groups and all this. But those are things that we are hearing.
Transferring money for what? Is that like vote buying? Oh.
Okay, but if they cannot give cash, what they do now, from what we learn, is that they will go to a community and say, look, where is the women leader? Where are the community leaders? Okay, we want you to vote for us. And who is the leader? You just give some money to the person, and then you share among those who are going to vote for them.
How are they going to share this because there's no cash?
Yeah, they will find a way of sharing it. There's no cash, but they can share online. What I'm trying to say is that, you see, I'm feeling that before the election, before Saturday, this protest will reduce.
Okay, Doctor, do you see...
It is in the interest of politicians that there should be no protest.
Is there a chance that everything will be normalized before election, even if today the president was to say, okay, fine, let's have the old cash circulate alongside the new cash? Do you think that we'll see a stabilization of the disruption that has already been caused right now?
Now, if the presidency or if CBN, I don't know, or if the Minister of Justice, will obey the Supreme Court ruling to allow this fund to circulate, definitely it doesn't take 24 hours. If they load the ATM, people will go and pick the money they want. Let me tell you, the cash that people are looking for is not in millions. Many Nigerians that you are talking about, they are looking for maybe 20,000, 10,000, 5,000. When they go to ATM machines, they withdraw only 10,000. The people that withdraw a lot of money are actually these POS operators. You understand? So if they obey the Supreme Court ruling and wet the ATM machines with cash, there's a way to reduce the tension or the anger. Let me use the word.
Reducing the tension, the fear of vote buying will also be there.
There will always be vote buying. There will be vote buying because no matter what you do, politicians will always have their way. They always find a way of doing it. Okay. You see, the fact is that Nigerians need to be educated. Because it is the other Nigerian who should say, I reject this money. You understand? If you don't reject the money, they'll be tempted. People will always come around. They always find a way around it because they are forming clusters here and there. They go to villages, they go to churches, they go to mosques, and they have people who like the coordinators, of women group, of this group, and they are finding their ways, moving money in whatever means to people. But if people say, look, we don't want to receive your money, we don't want to receive whatever you are giving, we want to vote, our choice, then that is actually when we can have the kind of democracy.
All right.
Okay, Doctor, there's an interesting story here, Stella, just before you intervene here. It's illegal to close varsities for polls, says Afe Babalola. That's another story that we are seeing, quite interesting.
Well, I don't know whether the closure of universities is in the Constitution or whether it is in the Electoral Act. Because I think universities are closed maybe because of, I don't know whether it is to ensure security or whatsoever. But we've had this issue about youths, who have registered to vote maybe in their universities, maybe around their universities. Now, if you close these universities, they will not be able to vote unless they have moved their polling booths or polling stations to wherever they live. But most times students register to vote and in environment close to their universities. So many of them are disenfranchised. But in my old world, I covered an election in the UK. That is in 2001. Now, when we were moving from one place to another, we discovered that we did not even know that elections were taking place. People were running their normal businesses. People were go to their offices. Maybe during break time, they walk to a polling booth and vote. Universities were not closed. Institutions were not closed. People were coming out, vote, and they go back to their work.
Perhaps maybe because of how sophisticated their own system is, it allows
I don't think it was really so sophisticated
it
because
allows for electronic voting. You could do it at your convenience.
No,
perhaps
they were thumb printing. It wasn't 2000. It was not electronic voting. People had ballot papers. They would go to the polling booth. They give them a ballot paper, the thumb print, then dump in the box, and then they move on. So there was no anxiety, there was no tension. You would not even know that election, was taking place. But in our own climate here, it's like war. Which shouldn't be so.
All right, talking about your old world, that is as a journalist, which I believe, a journalist is always a journalist. There's a story here on the Daily Trust. Elections, IPI writes FG, security agencies on journalist safety. This is a group of people, they are out there, they risk all of it to ensure that Nigerians get it. But a lot of times we get stories of them getting assaulted and all of that.
Actually, we did a study from 2017 to 2022, about 300 journalists were assaulted. And how were they assaulted? Security agencies. In fact, one of the stories that shocked me was that of a journalist being walked out of a courtroom because the judge did not want journalists to cover a court session. And then the policemen brutalized them, collected their equipment and damaged because the judge said they should walk out. Now, journalists are part of the country's democracy because the Constitution Section 22 says that we are empowered. I don't know whether that is the right one. We have the responsibility to hold government accountable to the people. Now, what journalists do when they cover elections is to say, well, we are the eyes of the people. Is the Electoral Act being violated or is being adhered to? You understand? Because for you to say an election is free and fair, there must be transparency. And part of transparency is to allow journalists who report what they see, to be part of the process. But we have discovered that politicians, even though they use journalists to campaign, they don't want journalists to monitor how they lose or win elections. And that's very unfortunate. So I'm happy that the IPI, decided to issue a statement. I'm also calling on the police that, look, policemen, they have their own role to play by ensuring that there's security during elections. But journalists have a role to play to ensure that, look, whatever is done, when votes are being cast, is in line with the Electoral Act. They have their responsibility to report to the public. We are accountable to the public. We have that responsibility. So they must not say, because they want to ensure security, violate the rights of journalists to carry out their jobs. For instance, INEC is supposed to conduct elections. INEC is the umpire. You cannot stop INEC from doing its job as electoral umpire. In that same breath, you cannot stop journalists from reporting, elections or whatever they find on ground. So I'm asking the IGP, the General Police, to ensure that his men are properly briefed, not to assault journalists.
All right.
Because journalists have to work. They have equipment that they have to take pictures. They have to do video recording. They have to interview people. They should not be stopped from carrying out that responsibility.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Theophilus Abba, Director, Daily Trust Foundation, for joining us on Daybreak and giving us more insight on some of the stories. It's time for us to take a short break, and then when we return, we'll be taking a look at some of the major headlines again at the top of the hour. Join us again.
But in a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that